Hello and welcome back, everyone. Happy Tuesday. This Tuesday, it's 2 days from February 6th, which is going to be the drop of the early access version of Civilization 7 for those of you who got a premium edition, which we are planning to do, and then streaming all day on February 6th, and also on the official drop date for the full game for the regular version on February the 11th. If you guys wanted to come through, we will be doing it all day on Twitch and YouTube. But we will also, today, this Tuesday, not 2 days from now, but today, we will be talking about the Civilization 7 Dev Diary, which is going to detail victories and post-launch conditions. This is the last Dev Diary we have to do. We are playing a little bit of catch-up. I think this one was released about a week ago, so let's just dive in. Hello, Civ fans, or sorry, hey Civ fans, a little bit less formal. With just 2 weeks left until February 11th, you can see it was released about a week ago, launch of Civilization 7, we have our final pre-launch Dev Diary covering the topic Victories. Creative director Ed Beach, Life's a Beach, dig it, will be sharing the details on how each of the game's victories work, and also provide a view of what we have planned for post-launch. Loving the Dev Diaries and don't want them to stop? We certainly don't. Worry not, as we have plans for a few topics to dive into, so this will be post-release Dev Diaries. Also, in case you missed it, we might have, we announced the Civ 7 World Summit, no we haven't missed this yet, a live Civ 7 multiplayer showdown between the 5 prominent members of the community. It's happening on February 8th at 5 p.m. CET and 8 p.m. PET. Isn't it PST? 11 a.m. ET. You can learn more here. Without further ado, which we do the do, here's Ed on Victories and our plans for post-launch content. So, hello once again. My name is Ed Beach, creative director for Sid Meier's Civilization 7 at Fireaxis Games. I'm excited to share with you our final developer diary before Civ 7 launches, Victories. My goal is to provide you with an overview of why we added end-of-campaign victories to Civilization 7 and explain how each of the 4 victories are achieved. Since it's so close to the launch of the game, I have 2 other topics I'm tacking onto this Dev Diary. Tips for your first game, very exciting, and what the Civ community can expect from us post-launch. So let's get into victories. We've already explained that there are 4 legacy paths in each age to establish your empire's greatness. So why do we need to add something on top of that, namely these victories? Well, achieving milestones along a legacy path does earn you legacy points, a useful metric with which to measure your progress against your opponents. But our design team never felt like a game of Civ should be about scoring points. Except for when you're doing a score victory, I suppose. For 30 years, players have won their Civilization games with a dramatic moment such as capturing the capital or launching a rocket into space. To be honest, a lot of Civ victories often feel a little bit more grindy than dramatic. The dramatic action is like when you pass the tipping point where you become the balance of power shifts away from the AI and towards you, I think is the most like critical moment, and often unless it's a close victory, often like the way that the AI plays and the asymmetries between player ability and AI ability means that the inflection point at which you win the game is often way earlier than when you actually win the game, and winning the game is like a matter of procedural execution more than anything else. But anyways, that's a weird digression, and if you play on a lower difficulty, maybe it doesn't feel like that. Also, if you play multiplayer, it probably doesn't feel like that. There are probably some epic moments in multiplayer. We want Civ 7 players to feel like they've completed something truly epic, an achievement that establishes complete dominance at the end of an extensive 3-age campaign, and hence we added victories. So there are victories in previous Civ, excited to see how they are going to be handling this one. So how do victories work? Well, that's what we just wanted to know. In the first 2 ages, completing all 3 milestones along a legacy path earns you a Golden Age legacy in the age that follows, a powerful bonus towards culture, science, economics, or military. But in the final age, modern age of the game, completing one of the legacy paths unlocks a victory. Oh, so this sounds like it's not actually just winning the game and ending the game. As detailed below, each of these victories typically requires about 20 turns of activity to complete, but if you have earned many legacy points across the 3 ages in this area of the game, so science, culture, economics, or military, your progress is enhanced. You can work on more than one victory at a time, and when both you and your components are racing to finish these off, these actions can get very tense. Whoever completes any single victory first is the winner of the Civilization 7 campaign. Okay, so it will just end the game. So you complete this and you can win the game. A cultural victory, a World's Fair. Reaching the end of the modern legacy path unlocks the World's Fair Wonder. Build this in any city in your empire to complete this victory. Okay, so we have to build a wonder. I mean, I'm guessing that the hard part will be the completion of the modern cultural legacy path, more so than the building of a wonder. So we have to do a bunch of tasks and then build a wonder. Someone brought this up in the Discord and was a little bit critical of it. They said that every single victory is you just building a building and then waiting. But I guess it depends how much weight this is carrying here. Completing the modern cultural legacy path, and how much of a task that is, and how much that task is differentiated across multiple different victory types, where we have like a military one maybe requiring us to do something very extensive militaristically before we build our wonder. But let's continue. Cultural legacy points speed up the construction of the World's Fair. That makes sense. That certainly makes sense. Your people's accomplishment over all of history make it easy to assemble an amazing World's Fair collection that all the world wants to come and see. We can see cultural legacy point, gain 1 cultural legacy point spent for bonuses in the next age, unlocks World's Fair, unlocks the wonder, and gain 10% towards its production. Well, I would not want the production time for this to be the primary thing, more so than a gameplay pattern being culturally oriented. But let's continue. Economic Victory World Bank. Reaching the end of the modern economic legacy path grants a player a great banker in the capital. Shout out. This unit just takes a single turn to fly between capital cities. Once in a capital, a great banker can be activated to establish a World Bank office. As soon as you have such an office in every capital, you complete the victory. Oh, this is interesting. So we just have to fly a banker around. This makes it so that in every capital, or every capital we own, So I guess this is just going to take several turns to fly between the world and connect everything economically. Okay. Economic legacy points reduce the amount of gold influence that needs to be spent to establish each World Bank's office. So we have to acquire lots of money. Well, I certainly like this more. See, the thing about the cultural one I don't like is production. It seems like it's more based on production, to construct a wonder. Whereas this has a victory that is associated with its like element or theme or resource, in that it costs you gold. It costs you gold in turns, but it costs you gold and influence to establish this. If your empire has a strong enough reputation as an economic powerhouse, the other world leaders will naturally fall in line to let you lead the modern world's financial community. Not read it, lead it. Okay. Also, very cool looking city we have here, right, with all the little buildings. I guess these are the bankers in the middle, and we see a great banker, this gentleman here, who's looking to establish things. Military victory, Operation Ivy. Reaching the end of the modern military legacy path. Again, this also requires us to do a path that we know not what it includes, but this unlocks the Manhattan Project Wonder. Building this in any city of your empire grants you 1 nuclear weapon. Immediately allows you to run allows you to run a project to construct additional nuclear weapons, and unlocks the ability to start work on an even more devastating technology, Operation Ivy, the world's first hydrogen bomb. Completing Operation Ivy finishes this victory. Is a hydrogen bomb really, like... I understand a hydrogen bomb is way more powerful than a nuclear bomb, but they're both, like, pretty extensive in terms of the damage they can cause, right? I think a regular bomb has more nuclear fallout, though, or like a non-hydrogen bomb. I don't know the difference. I shouldn't talk about it. But okay, we get the second tier nuclear bomb, and we get victory. Military legacy points speed up the construction of the Manhattan Project and Operation Ivy. This seems to be sensible. Your long tradition of military and industrial achievements pay off, now accelerating your progress in an all-important race for an entirely new class of weaponry. This one seems very similar to the cultural victory in the sense that you tie in with production. But what would the other... military victory through destroying military units would maybe be a way that you could have a different sort of source. So this seems kind of fine to me. I think Operation Ivy is... Operation Ivy, we build the hydrogen bomb, and we get a military victory. Just see, the thing to me is like you could do literally zero conquest and go for this victory. I guess it would be harder because of your military tradition, your previous 2 ages of military stuff, making it cost less construction is the main thrust of you like being able to generate advantage towards this. And the idea is you have to complete the legacy path first. I think that this detail is glossing over like the either each victory just kind of feels similar to each other, or this like little snippet is glossing over an enormous amount of the differentiation between victories with the legacy path, and I think that's probably the case here. And so, sure, we have a cherry on top. Well, that's an interesting euphemism for Project Ivy, but that's how you win a military victory. Scientific victory, a first staffed spaceflight. Now, this is the one in terms of victories that I think makes a ton of sense to cost a lot of production, because doing stuff into space, is expensive and requires a large-scale industrial effort, and, well, maybe it's like more a research-based effort, but it requires a lot of engineers to spend a lot of time figuring it out. So in that sense, it's a large production effort. Reaching the end of the modern science legacy path unlocks the staffed space flight project. Complete this in any city with a launch pad to complete this victory. Science legacy points speed up the construction of the staff's space flight project. Getting humans into space is a tricky endeavor. With an empire with a strong track record of scientific breakthroughs with a strong record of scientific breakthroughs can surely be this mission ready to launch into space before their competition. Okay? And we do see a nice little space flight that is rowdy, 17 turns, requires population 7 or more. All this makes sense. I suppose we have a little bit of context in the cost of each of these relative to the Eiffel Tower. Is the Eiffel Tower costing 12 and the cost of each of these being 17? And I think these are in the same city, no? Where it's just, they're using the same production for the city, so 17 for both. Eiffel Tower is the same cost, and so more than the price of an entire wonder. And maybe you will have ways you can interact with and look to stop victories, or someone going for a victory, spending a lot of production, and having it take more time than a wonder in order to produce. But okay, let's move on to tips for your first game of Civ 7. Civ 7 is a big game with many new systems and mechanics that differentiate it from earlier games in our series. There's a lot to learn, so we felt that it was important we could provide some suggestions in order to ensure that everyone has a successful first experience. We have map size and type. We know that many veteran Civ players love to play on the largest map size and see the maximum number of empires battle it out. I am one of those people. I feel attacked. However, there's a very deliberate reason we chose small as the default map size. With 3 other empires on your home continent and a few more to discover in the late game, small maps make for a very comfortable experience while you're first learning your ins and outs of Civ 7. This is fair enough. We especially recommend this map size to get your feet wet with the new diplomacy system. Tracking your relationships and ongoing diplomatic activities with a manageable number of opponents makes it easier to get the hang of how you want to spend and manage your diplomatic influence. That seems like a fine enough recommendation, to be honest. Maybe we won't use a massive map for our first game. We also recommend sticking with Continents Plus for your map selection. The extra islands just offshore help to ease your into ocean exploration, a key element of the exploration age, the second chapter of our game. Continents is always just kind of a basic one. If it generates in a sort of similar way as previous continents, I think it's usually 2 continents with half the civs on one and half on the other. Just a kind of very standard and balanced way of approaching things. We have other settings we can take a look at. We see difficulty, game speed, map types, continents plus, and then map size small. Continents and island is one we kind of like, but we won't necessarily see how many there will be in there. I don't know how I feel about this UI for the selection here in terms of clicking left and right instead of like a drop-down menu, but I suppose it's okay. It's actually probably cleaner. We're just used to the drop-down menu. We see tutorials and advisors. When you launch into your first game of Civilization 7, we will turn on the tutorial for you. Boo. except probably we should play with it. The tutorial is designed to provide with tips and explanations exactly when you first encounter something new. Fans experienced with earlier civs may scoff at the idea of playing with a tutorial on, if that's me, but with so many of our game systems having received upgrades and revisions, we do really recommend sticking with the tutorial for your first full campaign through our 3 ages. Keep in mind that the game has 4 different advisors, so you can control which ones are actively leading you through a series of quests to teach you their portion of the game. If it's too much to take in all at once, we suggest listening to only a single advisor at a time. Fair enough. Eventually, you'll have mastered enough to turn the tutorial off, but when you do, strongly consider switching to the settings only warnings. That sounds good, and it's also in bold, very warning, very alarming. That's what alarm does, it warns you. This setting allows these same advisors to jump in and warn you if your empire's progress is about to undergo a major setback. Even our internal team at Fire Access knows this game so well, plays with these warnings enabled. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Although, developers aren't necessarily... Well, nobody's good at Civilization 7 yet. I imagine these devs eventually will play with these off, maybe. Actually, maybe not. Maybe it's just useful to, like, have the apocalypse warning, and then if you just never mess up, the warnings will never pop up, so it's not a big deal. Seems fair enough. Hey, this one has a drop-down menu. Okay, post-launch. February 11th, the worldwide launch of Civilization is just around the corner in one sense, but that's the end of a long road to get ready for our gaming, to get our game ready for all our gaming platforms. Man, I'm just stumbling over my, reading today. I keep reading the word after the one I'm trying to read. But in a much larger sense, it is a really beginning. February 11th is the start of Civilization 7's journey with an amazing community of fans. So what do we have planned as we embark on this adventure together? The road ahead. Do tell. Let's start by looking at the graphic that shows our progress through the first 6 months of Civilization 7. That's kind of a lot to plan out, but it's also a big production, so maybe this definitely makes sense. During this time, we'll be updating our game regularly with the sorts of updates we've broken into 3 categories. Content collections, paid content such as Crossroads of the World, where we release new leaders, civs, and wonders over the course of a few months. Seems fine. Free updates, improvements, elevating the game with a wide variety of areas available to all players. Seems good. Events and challenges, month-long activities that allow all players that allow you to experiment with new gameplay ideas, similar to those of Civ 6 community have enjoyed throughout 2024. We haven't played with any of those personally, so don't have much commentary on them. Each of these updates is described further in sections below. Here, let's open this in a new tab and see this bad boy that we have. So February, early access start for Deluxe and Founders. We will get out, and then global launch is February 11th. We will be streaming both days if you wanted to come through for most of the day. For early March, Crossroads of the World, which gives Ada Lovelace, and also the Civilization Carthage in Great Britain. Carthage, of course, should have been in the release version. Great Britain, take it or leave it, but Carthage definitely should. We got to fix the timeline. And 4 new natural wonders, and then we see free content update for both players, or for all players, in early March and late March, where we will be getting Natural Wonder Battle, Marvelous Mountains. Natural Wonder Battles, interesting. Does that mean a vote-off between community? And then here we'll get Mount Everest, the Bermuda Triangle, and then on the late March for the paid content, Crossroads of the World. Interesting. So you buy this Crossroads of the World and you're going to get 2 different releases? That's fascinating way of releasing games, but okay, we get Simone Bolivar and Bulgaria and Nepal. And then sometime in April through September, we will get the Right to Rule collections, which I imagine are going to be similar in the sense that they do 2 releases, 1 leader in each of these, 2 civs in each of these, kind of paralleling what they're doing with Crossroads of the World, and 4 new world wonders, and free content, new challenges, updates, and etc. And then more to come, of course, later, which we will learn about later when more is to come. Okay. Content collections. The main piece of your paid content that you can engage with and choose to purchase separately are called collections. Also, super love that based on reading this, they don't seem like they're locking specific mechanics behind DLC, rather leaders and civs, which I think is great. As the name implies, these bundles are thematic groupings of new civilizations, leaders, and wonders, and other small odds and ends. So these This part is concerning. The other small odds and ends, I don't generally... It just reminds me of EU4, which is, like, unplayable without DLC. You don't want your, like, base game to be unplayable, so you can't have too much in the DLC. The first of these, Crossroads of the World Collection, begins to deploy in March 2025, fast on the heels of launch, where to ensure we're bringing you more ways to play as quickly as we can. The Crossroads of the World Collection will be released in 2 content drops. I think that this is a really cool release idea. During March 2025, the initial drop includes the long-standing favorite civs, Carthage and Great Britain. Of course, they put Carthage in front of Great Britain in the list because it is more important and not because Great Britain has more, okay, so, like, in terms of copy, if you're going to write this, you actually do want to put Carthage first, ahead of Great Britain, and not for any reason related to the countries, but it's just because the Carthage has more visual... or has less visual weight than Great Britain does, like in terms of how it operates on the eyes. And if you have either a longer item in a list or like a longer clause in a sentence with multiple clauses, you should always put the longest one at the end. So just as a matter of, like, good practice in terms of writing, if you're indifferent to the two, it should be Carthage in front of Great Britain. But also, if you have good taste and you're ranking them in terms of which one you think is better, Carthage should also go in front of Great Britain. Along with Ada Lovelace, a truly novel civ leader who has a way of mastering the game world like any other. But then just 3 weeks later, the second half of the collection drops will be released with even more content, including Simone Bolivar, plus the civilizations Bulgaria and Nepal that have never appeared in the franchise previously. We will see free updates, collecting feedback. First of all, we're excited to hear from you, or our players, once you've had a chance to dive into Civilization 7. We'll be closely monitoring and listening to your feedback, and our goal is to share with you how and when we intend to make ongoing improvements to our gameplay experience over time. What do you like about the latest Civilization title? What could be improved? Where were you confused? And where do we need to elevate our user interface, provide better tutorialization, or clarify how things are presented? Also, what ideas do you have to make Civ 7 more experience more fun? Our games are always improved significantly when we listen to our fan output. I think having one of the things I really like about the Tinto Talks is how transparent they are with the community and how much they seem to be taking in feedback from the community, and that seems really good for development. We have no doubt that our amazing community will come up with creative and ingenious ideas this time too. We can't wait to hear your thoughts and suggestions. Fair enough. Free updates, step 2. Updating the core game. And this is kind of what we were getting at, is if any feature is fundamental, to the game, or the game operating like as it should probably not be in a DLC, and very excited to see the core game being kind of lumped in on this free update sort of bandwagon. So how does this feedback directly translate to improvement in game? What kind of updates can players expect to see? The first set of updates we'll be providing are those that directly target the game as it currently stands. There will be some bugs to fix, plenty of balance changes to make, and we know these spots are in gameplay and the user interface that can be enhanced with any number of quality of life improvements. We know that there are spots. You'll see regular updates from us in all of these areas. We also have a number of updates planned to round out some features that didn't quite make it in our initial launch. Our development team is a creative bunch that has a seemingly endless list of ideas, but there are a few that have bubbled up to the top that I want to mention as priorities for the team. Adding teams to multiplayer games so we can let you play cooperatively. That's not going to be on release? Bruh. Nah. One of the, I remember getting Civ 5 on release, and it said that they were going to have Hot Seat on release, and I had planned to play Hot Seat with my friend on release, and then they didn't have it, and I was very upset that they didn't have it, and it made me not want to play Civ 5 for a very long time, even though I got it when it was released. No teams and multiplayers, that's a rough one, but okay. Expanding to 8 players for multiplayer in all ages, and through refinements to our distant land system. So we're also going to have smaller multiplayer. Okay, so it seems like multiplayer is taking a back seat to single player. To be fair, Civilization, I think, for a majority of players, is a single player experience. Okay. allowing you to pick your starting and ending age or allow for single or double age games. That's an interesting one. I have no, like, without having played Ages, I don't have the context with which to, like, evaluate that. Providing a wider variety of map types. We do love our map types. Adding in hot seat multiplayer. Speak of the devil. There's no exact date for these features at the moment, but we already have developers assigned to get them out to you as soon as we can. Events. Besides our ideas for features we know you'll like, we have a few that are a bit more experimental. Things that we'd love to see feedback on if they make sense in a future update. We also have an extensive list of activities and simply fun ways to shake up your Civ 7 gameplay. It's for these reasons you will see events offered in our game starting soon. TM. These offerings give you the choice to opt in and try a new experience. We want to hear what you think of and find out whether we might have hit on something you'd like to see us add in the core Civ experience. Makes sense. Also keep an eye out for a future dev diary that will dive in deeper on what you can expect from events. Okay, and finally, modding. We don't generally have much skin in the modding game, but let's see what they have to say. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of the most important ways our games improve after launch through the tireless work of a community of modders. To be fair, I actually do have some skin in this game in that most of my Civ 6 hours are modded, I think. I think I have like 700 hours, and most of them are modded. Civ 7 is built on many of the same technologies we shared with modders to allow them to create amazing content, as in the past. As 2025 unfolds, we'll be sharing modding tools and tips with creators so that they can work bringing their own ideas to life for you, our fans. So there's a look at the road ahead. It's going to be quite a busy year. It's quite a busy dev diary. We are looking forward to hearing from you all very soon. I think this is one of the longer ones they've done. We haven't had too many asides, and it's still rather lengthy, but okay. Map restrictions on gameplay on Nintendo Switch, etc., etc. Crossroads of the World Edition is included for the Deluxe and Founders Edition, which allows you to play on February 6th, which is what we're doing, which we will be streaming. Contains 6 DLCs, all of which will be available March 2025. Each DLC will be delivered automatically in-game on release, term supply, etc. And then, here's just a kind of... This looks like this is just a normal disclaimer. Online play and features require an internet connection, 2K account, minimum age varies, etc. Yeah, I don't think we need to read through that last one, but this has been our rundown. A little bit interesting to see the victory conditions. So the play patterns of these victory conditions don't seem necessarily too exciting in their own sense, but I think that it's the legacy path and how exactly you have to navigate through completing the legacy path that's maybe going to be the more interesting aspect of this. And so without having seen a substantive length of a legacy path, it's really difficult for us to like kind of comment on what was supposed to be like the main thrust of this dev diary, I think. Yeah, but we are excited about Carthage. Boy, are we excited about Carthage. We super love that. That's our super favorite. See this right here? Carthage. That's the best. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed. We will, again, I know I'm like beating the head over it, or beating it over the head, but we will be streaming February 6th and the 11th. So I hope you come check it out. If you want to see the game, ask questions about the game, just take a look. Just come in and say hi. Feel free to do so. You know, if you like this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'm not sure if we'll keep doing the dev diaries post-release. It depends probably a lot on your guys' interest in the dev diaries as well as your interest in Civ, and we'll see how things go. But other than that, you guys have a happy Tuesday. That's 2 days from the release of February 6th for Civilization 7 for the premium versions.